Hey guys, today I'm going to be sharing with you the top 10 best decks to currently use in ranked, especially if you're trying to climb infinite in the ranked ladder. And this was updated on September 28th from the Snap Zone. That's where I'm going to be referencing most of these decks. I find that they are the most accurate as someone who is currently climbing to infinite. I'm like top 5 of these decks I'm seeing like non-stop in the infinite ranked ladder. So without further ado, let's hop right into it with our first one being Discard Dracula. And what do you know? It revolves around discarding your cards and Dracula. And this deck has 3 powerful cards that we really should talk about. First up is Dracula, that at the end of the game, it discards a card from your hand to gain its power. This combos with Apocalypse because every time you discard it from your hand with the other cards in this deck that discard, it gains +4 and it keeps coming back and back and back. So if you could end the game with something like a Modok, discarding your whole hand and only leaving this, well then you're going to discard that at the end of your game and then give that power to Dracula to make it very strong. On top of that, you have a Morbius here that you would probably want to put in a different location, and this gains +2 for each time a card was discarded this game. And another card that I think is very valuable is Khonshu, because if you could discard this at least twice and then also maybe discard something like Colleen Wing here, maybe Corvius, maybe Gambit, it's just something that it can revive. It'll come back as a 12 here, but then also resurrect a discarded card to another location and set its power to 12. So the best case scenario is you discarded Gambit and you bring back a 3/12 Gambit that also destroys a random enemy card. Honestly, fantastic deck. I also believe it won a tournament rather recently. So you can't go wrong with discard, and you definitely can't go wrong with discard Dracula. Also, if you guys like this type of video and you want to see more, don't forget to like, hype, and subscribe, and stick around to the end because I'm going to show you a trendy deck list that's kind of an outlier that I'm using to climb ranked to reach infinite. I'm very close, and I think it's a really strong deck, so stick around for that. Next up is going to be Clogtriot, which is a play on words for Patriot, I believe. And your win con for this deck is going to be filling up your locations. You're not really clogging your opponent's locations, you're clogging your own locations, because if you can clog your own locations, well, you get things like Dazzler that get +2 for each location that's full, and then also Ant-Man gets a +4 when their location is full. On top of that, Ultron here, when played at a location, will deploy up to 4 2-power drones to each other location. This is a guaranteed, I'm going to fill up 2 other locations, and there's nothing people can do to stop me, unless they're playing Cosmo or Alliance. Now, with that being said, Patriot will then further boost those drones and often just win you the game. But the thing I want to talk about this deck is it has a couple other really interesting combos. For example, we have Pixie here that says shuffles the base cost of all cards in your deck that started here, meaning your Ultron that costs a 6 could actually end up costing you 0, right? That is a best case scenario. But then also I want to talk about Sentry here. Sentry that can't be played in the right, can only be played in the middle and the left, I believe. I don't know why I'm showing you the locations like this, but when you do play it this way, it'll add a -9 power void to the right location that also gets boosted by Patriot. I believe so, that's correct, but that doesn't matter. It's still a negative power. Well, not to worry, you have a couple options here. You can send this to your opponent's side with Annihilus, because it says on reveal your power below 0 cards, switch sides, and then you destroy those that can't. So if they fill up, no worries. But even if you don't want to do that, right? If you don't draw this card, you have another cost 5 Valkyrie card that you can set up, play this at the same location as your Void, and now it becomes a 3 and then also gets a +2. So now you're getting a 5 at this location. I don't know, I just thought it was a really interesting gimmick, and it's doing rather well. It's not the best deck in today's video, but we got plenty of more deck lists to go over, so let's hop into the next one. And that's going to be Scream Move, and it revolves around Scream. That is mainly your card here that you're going to be stealing at power from your opponent's card every time you make them move. But on top of that, you have some really interesting combos that synergize rather well with each other. And honestly, you could see them in the front row here, like Kraven. If Kraven's at a location and then a card moves to that location, this gets +2. And you also have Captain America, which starts the game with a shield somewhere in one of the 3 locations. And whenever this shield moves to Captain America's location, it gets +2. So you could bounce the shield between Captain America and your Craven to give them both +2/+2 every other turn. And while you're doing that, Batrick also follows the shield, gains a +2, and further enhances your Craven. So right there, kind of crazy synergy. But now your late game finishers have to be Cannonball here, which comes in, moves one of your highest power enemy cards to another location, and if you can't, you destroy it with a rock, which is pretty strong. And then also Hydra Stomper that has the ongoing +1 for each time one of your cards move this game. And you can get this guy all the way up to, I believe I got him to 18, 19, which is pretty strong, pretty good. Oh, speaking of which, I guess we should talk about Vision, the newest card also added in this deck, because if this is at a location where you're not winning, it'll move to another location, potentially even boosting your Craven. And then if you are winning that location, it'll give +1 power to all your cards in your hand, further boosting them. So it's honestly a win-win either way. And that's going to be the third deck list we're looking at today. And next up is Helgatha, which runs Agatha and Hela. I tried playing this. In fact, I think there's a video on the channel and it did rather well, but I can see it being an issue because if you don't start with Red Shift in your hand, like you're kind of stuck, because Agatha here gets to well, she starts in your hand. You start with Agatha, you draw Agatha, and then she controls your cards on your even turns. So if you don't even have Red Shift, you can't play Agatha. Won't end up playing Red Shift, which will then discard Agatha, which is what you want it to do. And also when it does that, it'll replace that card with a random card that costs the same. However, I'm gonna be honest, every time this happens for me, I get the hulking Emperor, and the effect is nothing. Like they get no extra effect. So it's just a 6 cost 12 power. I don't know if I'm just super unlucky or if it's a bug, but I feel like it's back to back. That's what Red Shift gives me. Now, the rest of this deck is you want to discard these big guys, right? Like you want to get rid of Infinite. You possibly want to get rid of Odin. Maybe you want to get rid of Iron Man, because then at the end of the game, at turn 6, you can play your Hela, and then for each different cost among them, resurrect a card you discarded to a random location. So you could resurrect a 6, a 5, potentially even a 4. Imagine discarding Ghost Rider to only resurrect Ghost Rider to then resurrect another Agatha Harkness or the Infinite. Like it could get really spicy rather quickly. And then also the card that I really like in this deck is Legion. Legion's ability to on reveal replace the other locations with the location it's at often just catches your opponents off guard. They can't play the game and you could just win right off of this, or you can screw yourself. Honestly, I've been in that situation as well. So this deck requires a little bit of luck, you know, starting with that Red Shift, so that way Agatha doesn't hurt you in the long run, but then a lot of like skill, like where am I playing my cards? What am I discarding? You know, I take it back. It's a lot of luck. Your randomized discards, you have no control over them. So yeah, there's this deck, Helgatha, and it's doing rather well. So if this is your cup of tea, maybe you want to play this. Next up is Flexible Move. I'm not going to talk about too many cards here, especially the cards that we've already talked about, because same idea, the Batrick and the Captain America synergize with each other. However, Madam Web is also here, and it has an ongoing that you can move one of your other cards away from here each turn. Now, this is really cool. It helps you further synergize that Craven, but can also help you stop them with Cosmo. That's what I like to do with this. You play Madam Web, maybe even in the center. You play Cosmo the following turn, and now on reveal abilities won't happen here, so they'll never play an on reveal ability in the center. But now you could just move Cosmo to another location, stop them from activating their on reveal, and then often leads to them conceding. I've seen it happen like 5 times out of 6. Now, your late game finishers have got to be this bottom row right here. You have Hellion right here that says on reveal next turn, you can move cards to this location. That's super helpful, especially if you're still trying to boost up Craven, and it also gives you an 8 power at a location. Also, when a card moves, this becomes a cost 1, so I typically like to play this on 6 with something like the Thing 4. At the end of the turn, it gets a +2, and then at a full location, you're guaranteed to destroy one of your opponent's cards on their side. But another really fun and cheeky way to win would be Juggernaut, a location that with Juggernaut, you're guaranteed to win because of the power difference. You play this, you move them to a different location, maybe even a location that has your Cosmo. They can't activate any of their on reveals, and you win that location and potentially even the next location. But yeah, very flexible options with this deck. Next up, we have a Buff Surfer, and it's so simple. It really is. On turn 6, you're playing your Silver Surfer, and it gives your other 3 cost cards +2. Very standard. Your brood here becomes massive because this fills up a location with all other broods. You have Captain Carter that also beefs up your back row of cards. You have Red Guardian that afflicts the lowest power enemy card on their side with a -2, but it's also a cost 3, so that'll get buffed. Viv Vision is a cost 3. Mr. Fantastic is a cost 3. Sebastian Shaw right here, when this card gains power, it gains +2 more power wherever this is. So even in your hand, even if you Gwenpool into your Sebastian Shaw, it's gaining extra just in your hand, which is a crazy turn 6 play to then have that Silver Surfer further boost them. And then if you're looking for even more of a buff, there's Galactica here. Each turn, the first card you play to another location, they get another +2. So if you use that on Sebastian Shaw, it's just getting another +2. It'll come onto the board as a 3/8, which is insane. You can't go wrong with Silver Surfer, and this enhanced buffed Surfer deck is very strong. Next up, we have Wiccan Curve, and your first 4 turns, they have to play out a certain way. There's nothing you can do. You have to play Quicksilver turn 1, you play Domino turn 2, and don't worry, you're guaranteed to draw these starting in your opening hand. And this one says you always draw this card on turn 2 and not before. And then turn 3 is where things get a little spicy. You better hope you have one of these 4 cards. You play Speed, which is probably your best option because it gets an ongoing +1 power for each turn in which you spent all your energy. It also synergizes really well with Wiccan. Or you play your Mobius, your Copycat, your Silver Surfer. And then on turn 4, you almost always want to play Wiccan if you have it on reveal. If you spent all your energy on your previous turns, +2 energy, and now you get an extra +2 for turn 5 and turn 6. So you're going into 7 and 8 energy, which is very strong. Or I guess you can play Iron Lad and hope that your top deck card is a Wiccan to get this effect. And then your closeout cards right here are going to be your Cosmic Ghost Rider, which has on reveal, remove the text from the front row enemy cards at this location. So depending on what they have, this could really win you the game. Alliance, if you're winning a priority, always check your icon to see if you have that little highlighter around your icon. And if you're winning priority, remove the text from all unrevealed enemy cards here. This often could win you turn 6. And then also Galactus. So if you played something like, I don't know, Copycat or your Silver Surfer, or even Iron Lad or Wiccan, turn 4 and Galactus saw this as your next card that you played, it'll continuously get +2/+2. So this will come onto the board with a, let me do that math, 16 power, which isn't too bad. I actually do like this Galactus over the other Galactus. I don't know. I kind of hated the old Galactus, but you guys let me know in the comments. And now we're going to be going into our top 3 decks. Oh, look at this, time flies. Next up is going to be Arishem Thanos, and there's really not much I can tell you guys about this deck. Like, you're going to start with, like, I don't know, how many cards? 37, I believe, because you're running Arishem that says game start, shuffle 12 new cards into your deck, and then on turn 3 you get a +1 max energy. That's good and all, but it's too random, right? Like, there's no real strategy. Every game is going to be different. So if you don't have a full collection but you have these cards like Arishem and Thanos and maybe even Kang, then yeah, maybe you want to play this deck because every match will feel cool and you might be able to play with cards you just don't have access to. So another thing is Thanos, game start, shuffle 6 Infinity Stones. So that's 12 plus 6 on top of the already 12 that you have in your deck, plus another 3 cards. There's just a lot of cards here with Kang. So there's a lot of RNG in this deck. And with that, I really can't tell you too much. The only good cards that also synergize with all this randomness would be, I guess, Blob. You merge cards from your deck into this card until it gains 13 or more power, which is good. It used to, I remember when it was first, like, you never stop. So this thing can get up to like 40 power, which is kind of crazy. And then also Essen here. I think Essen is probably the better option on turn 5, end of turn. Put a created card from your hand here. So at a random location that you don't have full, in a deck that just has created cards, like 20 of them plus, I think Essen is probably your better option. And also Mockingbird reduces their cost for every time that you play, you have a created card in play. If you have at least 5, this will be a cost 1. And that is the third best, most used and successful deck, even though it's RNG, which is kind of wild. Next up is a deck that I'm surprised isn't number 1. I'm gonna be honest, because this thing is crazy Okay, guys, Tribunal Move. I'm seeing this played so much more, and there are fewer things in this game that I find more satisfying than seeing a 300 power Human Torch at one location, and then your Tribunal's like, you know what, let's split that amongst all the locations. That's the idea with this deck. And how it works is you can move Human Torch. Every time it moves, you double its power. So you can move it with Madam Web, or you can move it on turn 4 with the Ghost Spider, bring it to one location. Iron Fist also previously, if you play this before your Human Torch, that's super helpful. Another card you can play on turn 1 is Arania, I believe that's how you pronounce it. Activate this ability, change this to 4, move it to one location over, and then that becomes an 8. So it's just a cheeky way to quickly boost up power. Doctor Strange, I feel like this is better late game. Like turn 5 if you can, not turn 6, because obviously turn 6 is going to be your Tribunal unless you can cheese that out earlier, and I'll show you guys how you can do that. Another card that helps is this Activate Sparky. As long as the last card that you moved was your Human Torch, you move it again, it gets +3 and then it doubles. Crystal helps you find your cards. More specifically, what you're looking for is the Tribunal. And then also Hercules, which is crazy because whenever this thing moves, let's say you play Hercules and this is at, I don't know, like 24 power. You Doctor Strange onto the same location as Hercules. You move this to Hercules with Doctor Strange. It gets the double power, and then Hercules says, hey, move it again, so it doubles again. That's how you get that 300 plus power. It's kind of crazy. And then finally we have Blink here that says on reveal, swap the last card you played with a card that costs more from your deck. So again, looking at your deck, you have all these 3 costs. You have magic here that also gets you an extra turn if you're looking for Tribunal. You don't want to use it on Hercules, and you definitely don't want to use it on Human Torch, but either magic or crystal are really good options that you can just blink right into the living Tribunal. But yeah, honestly, one of my favorites. I played this a lot, but it's not the deck that I'm using to climb. With that being said, let's talk about the first best deck in the list over on Snap Zone. It's a tier 1 deck, and it's Deadpool Destroy, which if you're a Destroy fan, I mean, I don't think there's anyone who's not really a Destroy fan. This is probably the most budget-friendly deck because a lot of these cards, obviously there are some cards that are Series 5 in here, but a lot of these cards are Series 3, and they're just very easy to get going for new players. But with that being said, this revolves entirely around Deadpool. Every time this is destroyed, you return it to your hand with double the power. Now, we just saw Human Torch doubling its power. Very strong. Very, very strong mechanic. So also having this guy that doubles his power every time you destroy it and having so many cards that destroy it for you is also very, very strong. Now, the thing that I want to talk about is a Series 5 card, Moirax, that says when this is destroyed, get a copy of your opening hand. So if you play this correctly, you might even be able to get 2 Deadpools. And then by turn 6, either play both of them to be around, I don't know, 32 each, or maybe is it 16 each power? Either way, very strong power. Or play them before turn 6 and then play your Null here that has the combined power of all the cards you've destroyed. Also, what are we doing? Let me just swap this in real quick. Yeah, that's better. So yeah, this is a good turn 6 play. What I will tell you guys is I made this mistake because they apparently reverted Killmonger to destroy all 1 cost cards. They recently nerfed it and said only at the location it's at, and I completely slept over the fact that they reverted it at the last OT. I don't know how I skipped that. So when I was testing this out, I had 2 Deadpools at different locations, and I was like, yeah, I'll Killmonger this Zoo deck only on this location. I'll get rid of all their ones that got boosted. I got rid of all their ones. I still ended up winning, but I also got rid of my Deadpools, which is really annoying. But yeah, so pay attention to that. And also if you discard enough, you can cheese out a death for 0 cost and a 12 power at any location. Also, we should probably swap this in. But there you guys have it, the top 10 decks for ranked. And now I'm going to share with you the deck that I'm playing, and that's this end of turn deck. I love it, you guys. It's helping me out tremendously. Oh, actually, you know what? Let me show you real quick. We're at 93. We're so close to getting infinite. I just got to keep going. I got to keep trying it out. Let me explain this deck for you though. Typically, you're going to want to have your Invisible Woman on the board from Fantastic Four. Activate this turn, your end of turn abilities happen twice. Now, I was playing a different variation with Sunspot and so many other end of turn cards, but I found this one actually a bit better. Why is it a bit better? Well, you have Stardust here that says cards can be added to locations by playing them or moving them. So if I'm not mistaken, I actually never got to see this in effect, but things like Khonshu, Hela, or things that like bring back cards and can't use their effects. You can't do that. You can only add cards by moving them or by playing them. So this is pretty good. And it's a 4-cost 6 power, which is pretty spicy. This also runs Athena, that if you play exactly 2 cards, and if you look at our deck, a lot of the cards, like the costs synergize where you're only ever really playing 2 cards, it gets +3 power for that turn. But you have to play exactly 2 cards, which is why we also have 3 other 1-cost cards that synergize with this. That we can play something like on turn 3, a Surge and a Black Cat or a Hydra Bob. Just things like that to really help us out. We have Juggernaut, which again, just like earlier, is a really good final turn cheese move where you can move all the enemy cards at this location to another location. They can't really do anything at that location. You win that location. I typically play this with Havoc because I'll play Havoc at another location, activate my ability here, and then proc this. So I'm getting a 7 power 2 cost at a location. Or if I haven't already, I'll play the Thing from Fantastic Four and then also proc that. So we're getting a +2, and then also at a full location, we'll destroy one of our opponent's cards at their location. And this often wins. Like I said, this is what I'm playing. That's why we got a fire emoji here. You guys let me know what you guys enjoyed from this video. Do you guys like this? Maybe I'll do one every single week when the Snap Zone updates their website. Maybe I won't. You guys let me know. But yeah, with that being said, hopefully the next time I make a video, I actually made it to infinite. Probably with this deck. Don't forget to like, hype, and subscribe, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Later.